The Dragons? Seriously? What's going on, guys? Your boy Bergs here from the Casual Athlete, and as you can tell by my intro, I made some really big errors last week, and it could have been a perfect round for me. The perfect round seems to keep eluding me at this point in the season. Still haven't had one yet this year. We have round 19 up this week, and it is another Origin affected this week with only 5 games being played again, and multiple teams with some Origin stars out. But before we get into my video, guys, just a reminder to like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week just for you guys, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our latest content. Let's just take a quick snapshot of how I did last week, guys, and as I said before, we got 6 out of 8 this week, and I was a bit unlucky on a couple of fixtures, and I'm a little bit upset at my own team especially, and then just being stupid by tipping the Dragons as well. I don't know what I was thinking last week. But starting back on Thursday night, we had the Bunnies getting up against the Eels at CommBank Stadium, and that one was as expected. You know, I think the Eels showed some fight in that game. Moses getting sin bin towards the end, probably a little bit of frustration coming out there as well. It's just not really going right for him at club level, but he has been selected again for Origin, which is good for him. The Titans got a big win against the Sharks as well, up at Coffs Harbour, and AJ Brimson didn't even play in that game, and they still got over the line. I'm really impressed with the Titans' mental fortitude and their defence at the moment. It's really working quite well. And for the Sharks, maybe it's back to the drawing board. They need to recapture that magic that they had in the first 10 rounds of the season. For the Panthers, hard-fought win against the Broncos, but got the win as expected. They don't lose too many games in a row. For the Doggies, man, it was tough once again, and I went with them on this one, but the Warriors showed a ton of fight and probably were the better team in that game and probably should have gotten the win, but Matt Burton kicks it in off the post again for another golden point victory for the Dogs. Man, they are on a roll. For the Storm, yeah, it was a bit of an up and down game for them. Yes, they scored 40 points, but they also let in 28 points, and no doubt Craig Bellamy will be upset about that. They did have a couple of really quality first-grade players out for this one. In Xavier Coates, Remus Smith was also out. I believe we also had an injury to Bronson Garlick during the game, which really threw their hooker rotation out, but they still got the job done, and Pappenhausen had a great game, which is good to see. For my Cowboys, man, I think they would have won this game 13 plus had they capitalised on all their chances, and they still had more chances to win the game than Manly did at the end of it. They had 5 shots at field goal in all, and Drinkwater nailing a great 2-point field goal. Man, Drinky was the hot hand. I really thought we'd go back to him for another field goal, but we decided to go with Chad 3 times, and then Val Holmes missed a golden chance. He had so much time on that one and completely sprayed it, and you can't give DC a second shot at the post. He will put it over and make you pay for it, and that's what happened. For St. George, as I said, not much to speak about in this game. I was just completely disappointed in their effort later in the game that saw them, really blow out that scoreline, but I thought they fought for most of it. And the Knights, geez, that was scary, that last 15 minutes of the game. I really thought that the Canberra Raiders were going to snatch that at the end, but they didn't get there on the day, and the Knights get another win. I will say on this one, guys, in my video last week, I did pick the Raiders, but during the week I did change it, and it was actually up on Zero Tackles tips as well. If you guys follow Zero Tackle Media, I am doing tips every week for them as well, but I did put that up on Wednesday during the week, so may as well go and follow that. I might put the link in the description for you guys so you can go watch those updated tips when I get a look at the team lists. But I do like to show you guys my initial opinion of tips as well. Let's have a look at the tipping comp that we are running with NRLtipping.com this year, and we do have a change in the top 3 as Jay Fitz is back up into first position, has overtaken North Sydney Bears there, Chris. Jeff must have had a pretty good week to get up there. Callan the Dark Knight has also moved into second position, and as I said, North Sydney Bears also makes up that top 3. Guys, keep putting in your tips each and every week. I will be announcing the top 3 at the end of the season for a couple of prizes as well, so make sure that you put in your tips each and every week while we trudge on towards the end of the season. While I'm trudging, other people are flying. Let's get into this week's tips, guys. The first game up for round 19 is the Dolphins taking on the Rabbitohs, and there's only been one game played between these two teams in the past, and it was won by the Rabbitohs pretty convincingly. But it's the first time that these two teams take against each other this year. For the Dolphins, they should get Jack Bostock back this week, and that is a welcomed in considering his try-scoring form of late. But they will be without Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, as Origin will affect them as well. Not saying that Origin won't affect the Rabbitohs. They have lost Latrell Mitchell for about a month, so he's not only just out for this game, but possibly the next few games as well. A foot injury. Liz Frank, they are talking. It could have been worse. It could be season ending, but he's managed to escape that as far as the reports are concerned at this point in time. They will also be without Cam Murray in this one as well. Really interesting game for me this week. I think the Dolphins are off a bye once again, but they've lost a bit of momentum prior to that bye. So I think it came for them at a really good time. And I think for the Rabbitohs, they've also been one of the best teams over the last month or so. Their defense is on point. You could easily say that they are one of the form teams of the competition as far as that goes. Some of the opposition that they've been playing hasn't been exactly star-studded or, in contention for, one of the best teams in the competition this year. But what I will say is the wins that they have had have been grindy. They've showed some fight. They haven't lost a game since Wayne Bennett re-signed with the club, and I think that just gave a jolt of energy right through the camp to know that everything's going to be okay now that Uncle Wayne is coming back to Redfern. As far as the tip goes in this one, the Dolphins, man, for me, it's going to be tough without Jeremy Marshall King. He is a stalwart in that number 9 position for them and has been unbelievable this year as well. He'd been playing every single game for them up until the point he got injured a couple of weeks ago. So really not sure who comes in there and who's going to affect the game the way that he does. He's such an important piece, but you got to argue that the Rabbitohs do have some key pieces out as well. Murray, who played on the edge last week, and I'm really liking Kaloamatangi in the middle. I'm wondering whether they're going to stick with that. I mean, considering that Jai Arrow is probably heading off for shoulder surgery as well, that will end his season. Really interested to see where Keon Kaloamatangi plays for the rest of the season. But I'm going to go the Rabbitohs in this one. They're currently the outsiders. I just really think that Whiten and Cody Walker have really got it together in recent weeks, and their defense is really going to carry them in this one with no Hammer as the threat for the Dolphins. Rabbitohs, 1-12. Friday night game has the Cronulla Sharks taking on the Tigers out at PointsBet Stadium. And over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Sharks have the better record. They've won 8 out of the last 10 games against the Tigers. Now, we all know the story in this one. The Tigers were the first team to beat the Sharks this season. They were also the only team to beat them over the first 9 rounds or so. And no doubt they'll be wanting to bounce back from what is, I guess, it was an exciting game against the Storm, but they ultimately just didn't get it done. I will say this, I do feel like Adam Dewey has to be closer to the ball. For me, the chances that he can create, he's such a big body. He's got a lot of skill. He's got playmaking skill. He can break tackles. He's pretty quick. I think we saw that a couple of weeks ago as well, even after the 3 knee surgeries that he's had. I just really think with someone of his creativity and experience, it's possibly better than someone like Galvin at the moment in the halves. I mean, the Tigers are probably preparing for next year in a sense, but I'd say Aiden Caesar is almost their most important player at the moment. He really gives them the direction and kicks well for them. But I just really think that they need to have a conversation around whether Adam Dewey should be playing in the 5'8 position. I've always seen him as a 5'8. I've never seen him as a center. And guys, in Supercoach and Fantasy as well, as you know, if you play, you know that Adam Dewey isn't a great center as well in Supercoach. Maybe my Supercoach bias is coming in there, but I just see him creating a lot of plays. And with Galvin, it's very, hit and miss at this point in time. Yes, I think Galvin had a pretty decent game last week, but will that continue? I don't know. For the Sharks, they're in a little bit of a weird situation at the moment. I think their key players are really letting them down right now. I think Ramian has still been outstanding for them. Nikora actually had a bounce back game last week, which is good for him. But Hines, man, he's got to get back on the horse. I just don't know what has happened to him or what happens to him when he gets picked for Origin and then gets dropped. It must be detrimental to your psyche, no doubt. He's a human being. It affects everyone, and no one wants to fail. But I just really think that they didn't really give him a massive shot, and he really should brush it off and just get back to the great Nico Hines that we've seen play, that we have seen at club football. They've got a great stretch of fixtures coming up. Hopefully, he can build some confidence going into the finals, because the Sharks will be there. They will be in the finals, but the key thing for them is they want to be a threat. And in this one, I think they get a win, 1-12. Two Saturday games this week, and the first one is up at Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast for the Titans taking on the Parramatta Eels. Now, for the Eels, they've dominated this fixture over the past 10 games. They've won 9 out of the last 10 games against the Titans, so the Titans probably looking to really rectify the record on this one. They used to have a great record against Parramatta until, I guess, the last 10 games or so. For Parramatta, the issues just keep piling up on top of one another. Mitchell Moses has been selected for Origin this week. I think Dylan Brown has been extremely quiet lately. Gutho, for me, actually tried his heart out last week. He was having a great game, I thought, but just wasn't enough to get them over the line. And compounding that, Junior Paulo has now injured his foot and will possibly be out for the rest of the season as well, compared to the injuries that they've also suffered to Simonson, who I think has been an underrated loss for them, especially with the outside back rotation that they have there. Playing guys like Jake Tungor at this point in time in the season is probably not where they saw themselves. No disrespect to Jake Tungor, but he probably wasn't going to play NRL this year. Jermaine Hopgood is a big loss for them. And one thing for me for Parramatta is they just don't do the one percenters. The one good thing I did see out of their game last week was the rookie, Charlie Geimer. I really think that they should have put him in much earlier than they have. At this point in the season, it's a bit rich to just throw in a guy who is all effort, who is all one percenters, and basically showing the Parramatta forwards what they need to do each and every week in order to be a successful team. I just think that Parramatta are really lacking in those effort areas. For the Titans, they're getting better this week. They get Jaden Campbell, AJ Brimson, and Philip Sammy back this week, so that should definitely help their backs out. Not sure who's going to be playing on the bench, whether it's Keanu Kinney, whether it's Jaden Campbell. I probably think that Jaden Campbell may move to 14. I know with the win last week, maybe that AJ Brimson can keep his position at 6, but you never know. I just think the Titans are going to win this game, and for Parramatta, it's tough to look at this point in time. Two years ago, they were in a grand final, and now they're staring down the barrel of not making the finals 2 years in a row. They're almost looking at the wooden spoon this year, and for a team of their quality, like roster quality, it's just simply not good enough. Titans 1-12. Saturday night's game is the Broncos taking on the Dragons at Suncorp. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, the Dragons have the better record. They've won 6 out of the last 10 games against the Broncos. And I just think with the Origin stars out for both teams this week, that makes this a very interesting fixture and one to watch. For the Dragons, man, they upset me last week. I just wanted a little bit more effort. I thought that, the absolute smacking that they got at the hands of the Roosters earlier in the season would really motivate them to have that not happen again, but the Roosters have now put 100 points on them in a season, and that's just, it's not good enough. It really can't continue coming into this week, especially in a game that they need to win. They're on the edge of the 8 right now, but you would say the same thing for the Broncos right now. They have a ton of Origin stars out. They do get Jordan Ricky and Katoni Staggs back for this game, so that should definitely help them in terms of their depth being fortified a little bit. I just really don't know who to tip in this one. I'm on the edge of tipping the Dragons again, just because I really think that they do well in games off a loss, and their forward pack really isn't much affected by Origin. They just are missing Ben Hunt, and he is leading the league in try assists this year, so they are going to lose a lot of creative spark. And Zach Lomax, who has also been providing a lot of highlights for them on the wing this year. For the Broncos, though, man, they're due a win. They need a win to stay in contention for these final series. If they can get a win here, get their Origin players back, maybe rest them a little bit, see what happens towards the end of the season, they can maybe get into the finals. But it's looking pretty grim right now. I was very impressed with the defensive effort that I saw last week. Hopefully that continues again. But man, I think this is going to be a tough game for the Broncos. But I think they get the win here, 1-12. The last game of round 19 takes place at Brookvale, where the Seagulls will be taking on the Newcastle Knights. Now, over the last 10 games between these two teams, it's a bit of a weird record. The Knights have won 5, the Eagles have won 4, and we had that spectacular 32-all draw that the teams played out last year with a Dom Young great try from 90 metres out. That was unbelievable. I do remember that moment. In this one, I just really feel like Manly are really on the back foot. I think they got a very lucky win last week. I say lucky, but there is an element of that in every game. But the Cowboys really threw it away and almost gave it to Manly last week, and still they could only win by 1 point. In saying that, though, they did blow a lot of chances of their own, and I won't necessarily hang them for that, but man, I really felt like the Cowboys were coming over the top of them, really winning that forward battle. And if the Knights can replicate that this week and really get a roll on, then they're going to be, within a good chance of winning. But the problem is the Knights are going to be missing a lot more players this week for Origin than they would have been in previous Origin weeks. They're going to be missing Kalen Ponga. I expect him to get picked for Origin. A lot of the late mail is suggesting that he will. Murray Taulagi is now out of Origin, so you'd probably expect Dane Gagai to be selected for Origin as well. And Bradman Best has been selected. So they're going to be missing a lot of their strike this week. But for Manly, they're missing DCE. Massive, massive part of their game. So Luke Brooks is going to have to step up. They're going to be with Tom Trbojevic. Now, he is possibly going to be stepping back into the fullback role again this week, with Tolu Kola being out for the next month or so. He injured himself with an MCL injury in last week's game. Ola Kawatu is also going to be playing for them as well. So you've got to think that with those ins, they probably look like being the better team. But I'm actually going to go against the grain this week. I'm going to be tipping the Knights, and they are outsiders for me as well. I know they lost Anari Tawala, and that will not help their back rotation at all, but I really liked what I saw from Jackson Hastings last week. He really stepped up. Ponga really wasn't the man controlling that game. He wanted the ball a lot, but Hastings got them over the line, and he's really owning his role. I'm really liking what I see from Will Price as well. Looks lively. Looks vibrant. He's always testing with some of his runs. Got a great right foot step. The Knights are going to be my Hills Cricket Academy lock of the week this week. That's right. I'm going to go with the Knights. I think they're going to win here 1-12 and really are going to make a charge towards these finals that I really didn't think that they would. I think I've underestimated them a little bit this year. They also get Phoenix Crossland back for this game, and that helps them a lot in terms of the hooker rotation with Jaden Brayley. So yeah, come on the Knights. Let's get a win, guys. So that is it for my round 19 tipping video, guys. Hope you liked it. Let me know down in the comments section below what are your tips for this week. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. We bring out so much content each and every week. Stay classy, and I'll catch you on the next one.